Welcome to the Confessions Podcast. I'm Cindy Wagman.
And I'm Jess Campbell. We're two former in-house nonprofit pros turned coaches and consultants to purpose-driven organizations.
After years of building up our separate six-figure businesses from scratch, we've thrown a lot of spaghetti at the wall and have lived to see what sticks.
We're on a mission to help other nonprofit coaches and consultants looking to start or scale their own businesses past the six-figure mark by pulling back the curtain.
Whether you're still working inside a nonprofit and thinking of one day going out on your own, or you've been running your consulting business for years, you understand that working with nonprofits is just different. We're giving you access to the business leaders who serve nonprofits as their clients. You know, the people who truly get it.
No more gatekeeping, no more secrets. This podcast is going to give you an inside look at what running a successful nonprofit coaching and consulting business looks like. Basically, we're asking people how much money they make, how they get paid, and what has and hasn't worked in their businesses.
Listen in as these leaders share their insights, their numbers, and the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to building a nonprofit coaching or consulting business. We're going to empower you to make the power moves that give you the income and freedom you set out to create from day one.
You ready? Let's go.
Hey, Jess.
Hi, Cindy.
I don't know about you, but the last little while has been really busy, and I feel like I've been working in my business a lot more than I've been working on my business. And yeah, let's talk about that today.
You know, it's such an easy trap to fall into. And I think both of us that work with clients in the fundraising space specifically, this is an
year-end,
really busy time of year. So it's easy to get caught up in it.
Yeah.
But maybe not even just fundraising. Like if you're a strategist and you're making plans or you're working with boards, like I just think this is a busy time of year. So it's really easy to get caught up into that.
Everyone seems busy right now. For me, and I think for most people, the time when we have the best business ideas and, you know, the most generative thinking is when we have some downtime. But it can be really, really hard, especially if you don't build that in, then your business growth and potential will suffer. And we can also talk about the ups and downs of revenue. If you aren't doing business development on a consistent basis, you're going to have those peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
So we thought let's dive into this conversation and maybe share some of our tips on how we make sure that we're working on the business a little bit consistently all the time. So let's start with what does working on your business look like for you?
So while it might externally look like, and even our friend Rhonda Harrison was like, you are such a great executor. You think of an idea and you put it to work. And I do. And sometimes I need to put a stop to that. I'm not a super duper great multitasker. And so what's difficult for me is when I have client work, but I'm also trying to work on my business or in my business. And so for me, it's better to go in stages or sprints and I'm coming out. This is my last of 9 VIP weeks.
Woo-hoo!
I mean, crack the sham freaking
did
thing.
it.
I did it. And I really learned a lot about how I love to work with clients. I'll definitely do this again. This is another episode. I have kind of needed to come to this stop place to then move forward I think I have scheduled for the next 6 or 8 weeks to do almost no client work so that I can do the cleanup that needs to happen, the reconciliation of books that needs to happen. I am almost incapable of doing those two things at the same time.
Yeah.
So I have 6 or 8 week sprints, flip flop all year long.
Yeah.
And that's what's worked for me.
Yeah. I love it.
How about
I'm
you?
the opposite in that
we're the same or different.
Same images. Yeah. So I do like working in sprints, but for me, I actually book a day a week to not have any meetings and to work on the business. I also book one day a week where I don't work. So I try not to work Fridays at all.
Same.
But then Wednesdays are usually my day where I don't book meetings and I can really just get the work done. But I'm changing it for January or end of January. I'm shifting to not taking meetings during the morning because, and you probably just knows this about me, and anyone who's known me for any period of time knows I'm a morning person. I do my best work then. And then I just do meetings in the afternoon. So I'm actually shifting it because I feel like that will give me the time and space and the most productivity to actually get the work done. I probably still won't book a lot of meetings on Wednesday afternoons. I don't typically, but I'm giving myself every morning, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, to actually work on. I have a lot of things I want to work on in the new year. And so that's the time I've booked for it. And I have to block it off like 2 months in advance because
Totally.
otherwise it's booked.
Totally. And I think that what you mentioned about the calls, I find them so draining. Like if I could invent a business where I literally don't have to do any calls, I would be a happy gal. And I realize that there's so much efficiency that can come out of them. I'm aware. I just personally find them so draining and such a shift in productivity.
Yeah.
And so I used to be very loosey goosey with my calendar, no boundaries. Like you can book a call like whenever. And no. And I am putting like some real guardrails up for the next phase because it's too much. I will literally have to go lay down in a dark room if I do 3 Zoom calls in a day. I just don't have it. I don't have it anymore. And it's one thing to say I'm going to book Wednesday afternoons for calls, but I have to realize that I will literally be worthless after that.
Yeah.
So I have to be careful with that too. It's better for me to just do calls.
See, I don't mind calls. I have discovery calls, which I only do Monday and Tuesday afternoons, and that's it. But I also do a lot of coaching calls, right? And this is, again, one of those areas where you and I are kind of on the opposite sides of things. I really like doing the coaching work. And so it's and podcasting is a form of calls too. So we'll batch 4 podcasts. I was looking at our schedule. You and I are scheduled for 4 back-to-back podcast sessions one day in a couple of weeks. And I was like, that's a lot, but it's the same energy. And then that night I will crash, but it's done and it's sort of batched together. And we can talk about batching. I know we both do this. So for me, I look at more what the week looks like. And for you, I feel like you're more what does a couple months look like in terms of those sprints? But I think that that's so critical to being able to manage and find the time to work on the business and not just do client work.
Yeah. I mean, I know for me right now, I'm in that messy middle phase of where I just need a lot of cleanup. Everything from funnels and sequences to my website, which to me right now is so cringy, and just all sorts of stuff that I just want to rehaul, a whole bunch of stuff that's been just set aside and I know is creating stopgaps in my business. It's also, I want to do a better job of in 2023, having people self-select which paths they go to work with me and really filtering out people that are not the right fit. Because right now, anyone can submit some sort of form or contact information and not necessarily that they get on a call with me because I essentially don't do discovery calls. But if I want to be a little bit more clear about what it is required to work with me, and I just have none of those filters up right now. And I just feel like that's hurting my business. Or it's making my business way less efficient and there's room for improvement, but it takes me to basically only be focused on that to be able to do it.
Yeah. So fun fact, I have a lot of the same objectives of cleaning up and streamlining our services and products. So same.
I would say we should co-work, but the Zoom thing will just not
we'll die.
work for me.
We'll die. But you're going to love this. The story brand people have like a framework that I'm going to be using to revisit all of my web pages and my nurture sequences and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's part. I have a lot of big projects for the new year, but that's definitely part of it. But then as you were talking, the other thing is like, what are the nice to haves and what are the critical things? Because to me, that is more like we're not suffering because I don't have that. And I would definitely rather be on a discovery call than I think it's more productive to be on a discovery call than to fix my website.
Totally.
But as I say that, I'm not sure because maybe I'll have more productive discovery calls if my website is more streamlined and I'm preparing people or screening people better. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer, but I definitely think
it depends.
Yeah.
It depends what stage of your business is because you're not like hurting for business right now. And so if you were in a position where you needed to fill your client roster, a discovery call is going to be way more beneficial than probably fixing some things on your website, right? And so I think it depends what you're trying to achieve for the upcoming quarter or the upcoming year and what are some of your goals for that.
Yeah.
So for example, in 2022 at the top of the year, and this is really funny because we just had a conversation on visibility. Visibility was my number one goal. I wanted to double my email list, which required me to do the things that I've been doing, but then also attach to other people's audiences. And what I found was attaching to people's audiences was a lot of work and way less fruitful than me just doing my own thing. Yeah. And so my email list has definitely grown, but not from a lot of that effort and work and frankly, money that we put into that. And so we reevaluated and and so some of the changes we made versus like pitching podcasts and pitching speaking opportunities was I went from sending one weekly email to my newsletter list to 2 and showing up more in people's inboxes with really high quality value. And it's just like totally transformed my lifeblood of my business, which is my email list.
Yeah.
And so those are changes you have to make as things happen.
And I think like that's such a also great example of like the shoulds, right? Like where sometimes we feel like we should be doing this, we should be focusing on that because that's what everyone else does or, you know, what have you. But like you got really clear on how you're serving and who you're serving and, you know, what consistency looks like for you. And I mean, we're all envious of your emails. So I literally said to myself this morning, and I was in a meeting with my VA and I was like, all right, right now it's November 14th when we're recording this. And I was feeling like, oh my God, I can see all the things I want to do next year and I have to start them all now. I was like, no, I don't. No, I do not. I will burn myself out. And that is not why I do what I do. And so I literally picked 2 goals, 2 things I want to get done before the end of January, not even the end of December. And everything else was going to wait. And I'd rather finish those 2 things properly than try to do all like 5 things half-assed.
I agree. I'm an activator. So it's my poor Mackenzie. I talk about her all the time, but like I basically, a thought enters my head and I'm already running with it. I mean, I need like an emergency break to like stop. And I too, after this season, I've been feeling tired and I cannot walk into 2023 like this tired if I want to like be able to have a business. And so Mackenzie's so good. And so for anyone listening, that's kind of like me, where you get so excited and you want to move forward and in like activation and execution, like you do those things really well. Having someone to like kind of say, okay, yeah, great. I'm hearing you. But like not actually start implementing. Mackenzie's so good at like listening to my idea and then, but not necessarily starting
Yeah.
it. And then I usually come back and I'm like, so that idea I had, we're going to push that. And she's like, I
Knew
thought that
it.
was, yeah. But having someone to kind of check you, or even, I mean, Mackenzie has had to say to me, like, this is too much.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be able to do any of this well. And so if you don't have that kind of self-control, having someone, I know like Rhea and Brooke, who are some people in our community, they're each other's accountability partners. They
Yeah.
meet every Monday. And like, I know that they would call each other out if someone was to say they were doing this, that, and the other. And they're like, whoa, Nelly.
Yeah.
So whatever you need to do to like put those guardrails up, I think is really, really important.
Yeah. And I think, so one of the things I found in working with a VA on my team is that like sometimes I'm like fine running myself to the ground, but I'm so much more aware of like her workload. And so I'm like, okay, checking in is if she has too much, then I know I need to pull back and like stop adding things, because I don't ever want someone else to work as hard on my business as I work. That's not why I created the business, and that's not why I hired people. But also, so to me, that's sort of like a good threshold test, is like, is there too much going on? But I've done a lot of work over the last year and around what I want out of my business. And obviously I want impact. I want to impact people, but I want to enjoy things. And so I don't want to wake up on a Saturday morning and do work, which I'm like infamous for. So I have to remind myself that pretty much every day. And that allows me to make decisions from the place of what I'm trying to build, not just in my business, but in my life.
Okay. So at the time of recording, we have like 6 weeks left, right? And it's really busy, but I'm curious, like, what your thought process is, like, in terms of goal planning and how you make decisions based on executing those goals, and like, what's the split of executing those goals as far as working in your business versus on your business?
Yeah. So based on what I've structured for the new year, like I feel like I will be 40% of my time working on the business and 60% of the time working with clients. But I actually think it's going to probably be more like 50-50. And so part of what I look at is like, how many clients do I want to be serving? What does that look like? I'm at a place now where I'm scaling. So I don't have very many opportunities to work one-on-one with me. And I'm working on those, and they're going to be fairly expensive for people, or like really quick and intense, like VIP day type things. So, which is still expensive. So yeah, I feel like looking at what do I want the business, like how do I want to serve people, and how much time, and what are those products? And then what I've had to do is say, okay, like what do I need to do to build that? No, I'm not starting from scratch with any of them, but I do know that I have to put in some new systems for, the fundraising plan service that I want to do, or for my one-on-one coaching, I have to update the proposal that I have because I've changed how I deliver that. And so I need to back that time in, and I need to block it in my calendar so that I actually get it done. So I really do look at, for me, the biggest thing for me in the new year is this network of consultants that I guess oversee, manage, have. And that's going through a major overhaul. And so I anticipate that will take me months to relaunch. So I've actually I'm not launching my group coaching program again until probably the fall. Like I've given myself a lot of time to build, because I see the scale, I see the impact, I see how it helps charities and it helps consultants. And I'm like, that is something that's big, and I have to create the time and space or I won't do it well. And then I will not be as successful.
Yeah, I think that carving out that space to build is really, really important. And if you can afford to do that while not like running alongside it, you're just giving yourself such a gift. I know a coach that I work with, she spent the better part of 2022, at least the first 6 months, redoing her entire offer suite.
Yeah.
And to compensate for that, she ran like this huge Black Friday sale. She did like a end of year, like January 1st type of release of thing, just so she had the cash. So she could literally sit and build.
Yeah.
And now it's done.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. But I can't imagine how stressful that would have been if she was also worried about income.
Yeah.
At the same time.
So I think that's such an important point. And I want to talk a little bit more about that because I do think a lot of people feel like I can't find the time because I am so busy with client work. And a couple things. One is like hour-based pricing is a problem if you want to grow your business. Like stop charging people by the hour, charge them for your expertise and by the project or, retainer, what have you, so that you can find efficiency and actually build margins into your work or increase your hourly fee, kind of both. That is such a big one I see people struggle with is like they don't have the time because they are literally trading their time for dollars. And that is not, you will never be able to buy back that time because you need the money. Another thing I see is like just being available to everyone all the time. And we talked about that already, but I really, really push people to say like, don't work in your email, have an autoresponder on. There's some great examples out there of people in our sector who have amazing autoresponders.
I've literally had an autoresponder on since like September 1st.
Yeah. You know what? It's okay. People will be a lot more patient with you if you manage your expectations from the start. So put on your autoresponder and then block don't let them book any time. Block your calendar and say, okay, whatever this time of like Tuesday afternoons is the time when I'm going to do discovery calls. Or we used to do like when I was doing a lot more work in the business, okay, Mondays were for this client, Tuesdays were for this client, just so I could get in the headspace. So like you have our listeners have the tools to get out of that, dollar per hour mindset, but you have to implement them. And it's scary, but it's so worth it.
I mean, can we just say like for everyone listening, and I don't know when this episode will actually drop, but like whether it's late in the year or it's early 2023, like if you haven't increased your prices, will you just commit to increasing your prices? Like that will just right there, like afford you time to breathe and build and get some stuff done.
Yes. Love it. Increase your prices. If you can, go to value-based pricing. And that is your first step to being able to grow your profitability. I love it.
And what about for folks who like don't want to grow?
Oh, I love that one. I have a lot of people like that. Okay, so still raise your prices.
Me. I'm one of those people. I am like less interested in going up. And
so still increase your prices. I have one of my coaching clients. She was, I think, charging like $40 an hour. And I was like, you need to be charging 60 or 65. She's like, and I was like, trust me. And actually her client like offered that. They were like, we're paying you too little. So that was a wake up call for her. And she, for lots of reasons, doesn't want to be working full time. And that just gave her so much more margin in her life. So yeah, I think that, I mean, you know this about me, like I love when we can start to productize our services so that, and you do this so well, Jess, like you actually like with your sprints and the way that you deliver what you do, you found a way so that you don't have to be doing all the growth. Like you can find that you maybe grow a conference, but that doesn't mean you're doing 5 conferences, So scaling what you have, I think that's what I'm focused on right now as well. It's like not launching more, not doing more, but serving more people in what we're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For me, it's about going a little bit deeper than it is wider. And as someone who has accidentally spent 2022 what feels like in a launch every other day because I've accidentally like started a second business, which was not in the planning session we did in
Last
January in Joshua Tree. I gotta like really pull the reins back because that has been exhausting. It's also made me an excellent launcher. And so I actually feel like I have something to teach around that. But yeah, I've said this a couple of times in a few different episodes. I'm just in like the messy middle.
Yeah.
And if you know my personality, I'm a piler, not a filer. So it gets really, really, really messy before we get organized. And I'm in that phase, which is why I'm so excited that I have worked my buns off this last 2 quarters, because I'm like actually sitting on so much cash that I do not have to like work for a client to earn a penny for like the next several months if I don't want to.
Yeah.
And that's so nice because so much has been neglected.
Yes.
But it's time to give it a revisit.
Yeah. And I think like, I mean, I don't want to call that a cautionary tale because you're obviously like you've structured your business in a way that you can make, you're charging premium prices for those intense times so that you have the downtime. The problem is a lot of people don't, and then they have the downtime and it's like crisis because they don't have cash flow. So I think I was also just having this conversation with a coaching client anyways, 2 clients asked for like a couple months off and she financially was okay with it. So she's like, I said, don't replace them. You need that time and space. And I think if we don't build white space or, the margins into our day to day and into our business planning, we burn out, we suffer, our business suffers. And so wherever you can find those margins, pricing wise, time wise, how you structure your offerings, I actually think that is so critical to the longevity of our work.
I will also say there has never been a week in my business as intense. I don't care if I'm running like the Raise More Together Summit for 1,500 people, that you will not find me post on social, that you will not get an email from me in my inbox.
Yeah.
Like I am always doing at least something, and you're so, so, so good. Like I think you always say,
hell or high water.
You are consistent.
Our emails. Yeah.
Well, you are consistent. And so I think going back to working on your business versus in your business, like there's always a little bit of, working in my business. And, it's like a stove. Like I turn it up and I turn it down depending on what is going on. But I am never not doing anything because I've been there. I write emails about this where it has burned me bad, and it's not worth that kind of level of stress to be unsure of like calling in business, or you've fallen off the face of the visibility earth and like no one remembers you and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's got to a point where because of the consistency, launches are so much easier because people are ready. I send out an email. I'm like, hey, I have room for some coaching clients, and like people book calls.
Yeah.
So when I do like those emails, I actually batch them. I usually sit down for a couple hours once a month and get them all written and then done. And so the process still works. You don't have to do one time a couple of years ago, I was like, let's do a day or like half a day session with my team at the time. We're like, we're going to just brainstorm all the topic ideas. Cause I used to blog back then. And then we're going to come up with like 30 blog posts in this session, and we're just going to record ourselves and transcribe it. And then we're going to have it all done. And like it half worked, but like just because you do things consistently doesn't mean it has to be a little bit every day. You can manage your time so that it's more effective.
And I'm thinking like, you must not have an ounce of ADD in you or ADHD, because for me, sometimes when I put on my calendar, like write sales sequence or whatever, I fail so miserably.
Oh, I'm not.
Or like block the time to redo the sales page or whatever. I don't know. But what does work for me is anytime it happened last night as I was going to bed, I like got the spark of inspiration of a LinkedIn post. And so I just like like just wrote it out.
Do that again for us,
like verbally like vomited into like a note on my phone that I'll go and clean up later. But it's like, I also think it's okay that when inspiration strikes to pull out your phone, to voice memo yourself, do whatever you need to do to just capture that.
Yeah.
I know for all those women listeners, I did a session with this amazing teacher named Audrey who talked about how your creativity actually spikes as you are coming into your ovulation phase. So like the first 14, 15, 16 days of your cycle. And then it drops significantly as you like go towards your menstrual cycle. And I haven't been excellent about timing those things up, but I just know when I have the inspiration strike and I check the calendar, I'm like, okay, I really better lean into this if I can, versus like, trying to do it all, like really like force myself when it's not flowing,
Yeah. Yeah. No, trust me. I am not always productive and I'm not always like, great, I scheduled time for this. I'm going to do that. I try and I'm better at it than I used to be. But sometimes I also am like, no, I don't want to break, or that's not what inspires me right now. And so I'll do something else. And that's also okay. I'll just make sure I move it so that I block off another time for it.
Totally.
Totally. So
I think the takeaway from this episode is like, it is just as important, if not more important, to work in your business, on your business, than just doing that outward facing client work. To have the space and ability to build and reevaluate and think and dream. So important.
Yeah. All right.
So with that,
we'll see you all next week. Thank you again for listening to the Confessions podcast for nonprofit coaches and consultants. If you enjoyed today's episode, which I sure hope you did, you can show your support in one of 3 ways.
Number 1, post a screenshot of this episode to your Instagram stories or LinkedIn profile and tag Cindy and I so we can repost you.
Number 2, share this podcast with a fellow nonprofit coach or consultant.
And number 3, leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts so we can continue to grow and reach new listeners.
And of course, make sure you subscribe so you can get the latest and greatest interviews as they drop every Thursday.
And to our fellow nonprofit coaching and consulting friends, remember, we're an open book and here to answer your burning biz questions.
See you next time.